The artificial atmosphere of Meridian Station carried the usual cocktail of recycled air, engine coolant, and questionable cooking from the food vendors. Marcus Reed adjusted his worn leather jacket as he navigated through the crowded marketplace, his dark eyes scanning the various stalls and their exotic wares. The trading station served as a neutral meeting ground for dozens of species, making it both profitable and dangerous for independent traders like himself. He'd just finished negotiating a decent price for rare earth minerals when he heard the commotion echoing from one of the side corridors. Most seasoned traders knew to avoid getting involved in station conflicts. It was bad for business and worse for your health. But something about the voices made him pause. "Please, I mean no offense," came a melodic voice, tinged with what sounded like genuine fear. "I was simply passing through." "Passing through our territory without tribute, silver skin," growled a rougher voice. Marcus recognized the guttural accent, Krillian pirates, the kind who thought the entire galaxy owed them a living. Marcus sighed and loosened his sidearm in its holster. His better judgment warred with an instinct he'd never quite been able to shake, the urge to help someone in trouble. The better judgment lost, as it usually did. He rounded the corner to find 3 bulky Krillians surrounding a figure pressed against the corridor wall. The person they were harassing was unlike anyone Marcus had ever seen. Her skin held a luminescent silver quality that seemed to shimmer in the station's harsh lighting, and her hair fell in waves of pale blue that moved as if underwater. She was humanoid but clearly not human, with delicate features and eyes that held depths of starlight. "Gentlemen," Marcus called out, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd survived more than his share of fights. "I think the lady asked you to leave her alone." The largest Krillian turned, revealing scarred features and cybernetic implants that glowed red in the dim light. "This doesn't concern you, human. Walk away." "See, that's where you're wrong," Marcus replied, his hand resting casually on his weapon. "I happen to be very concerned about the welfare of fellow travelers." The silver-skinned woman's eyes met his, and Marcus felt something he'd never experienced before, a gentle touch against his mind, warm and grateful. It lasted only a moment, but it left him feeling oddly protective of this stranger. "You want to die for some alien?" the lead Krillian snarled, his companions moving to flank Marcus. "I'd rather not die at all," Marcus said with a slight smile. "But I'd definitely prefer that to explaining to station security why I let 3 pirates shake down an innocent traveler." The mention of station security made the Krillians hesitate. Meridian Station was technically neutral territory, and the automated defense systems didn't distinguish between species when it came to violent crime. "This isn't over," the leader growled, but he gestured for his companions to follow him down the corridor. Marcus waited until their footsteps faded before turning to the woman. Up close, her alien beauty was even more striking. Her silver skin held an inner luminescence that pulsed gently, and her eyes were the color of nebulae, deep purple shot through with silver. "Thank you," she said, her voice carrying musical undertones that seemed to resonate in his chest. "I am Zara Nyth of the Ethereal Clans. You showed great courage in defending a stranger." "Marcus Reed," he replied, extending his hand in the universal gesture of greeting. "And it wasn't courage, just couldn't walk away from someone in trouble." She looked at his extended hand for a moment, then reached out to clasp it. Her touch was warm despite her silver appearance, and Marcus again felt that gentle brush against his mind, not invasive, but like a whisper of gratitude. "Your people have a saying," Zara said, her eyes studying his face intently. "Actions speak louder than words. Your actions today speak of honor." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. Anyone would have done the same. "No," she said softly. "They would not. You risked yourself for someone you did not know, of a species you had never met. This is..." She paused, searching for words. "This is the mark of one whose soul recognizes kindred spirits." There was something in the way she said it that made Marcus's heart skip. Her gaze held his with an intensity that seemed to see straight through him. "Among my people," Zara continued, "when 2 souls recognize each other in such a way, when one shows such selfless courage for another, we believe they should bind souls. Marcus felt a warmth spread through his chest at her words. He'd never had anyone speak to him with such sincerity, such depth of feeling. The way she looked at him made him feel like he was someone worth knowing. Bind souls? He asked, assuming it was some kind of friendship ritual. Like, become allies? Her silver skin seemed to glow a little brighter. Yes, she said, though something flickered in her expression. Allies. Partners. Two becoming stronger together than either could be alone. I'd like that, Marcus said, surprised by how much he meant it. There was something about this woman, Zara, that drew him like a gravitational pull. I mean, if you're serious about it. The smile that spread across her features was radiant. You would agree to bind souls with me? Truly. Sure, Marcus said, matching her smile. I don't have many friends out here. It would be nice to have someone to watch my back. For a moment, Zara's expression seemed to shift, as if she were seeing him in a new light. Then she stepped closer, and Marcus caught a scent like ozone and starlight. Thank you, Marcus Reed, she said, her voice carrying a weight that seemed to echo in his bones. I accept your offer. We shall bind souls. Something in the way she said it made it sound more formal than he'd expected, but Marcus nodded. Great. So, how does this work exactly? There are preparations, Zara said, her luminescent skin pulsing gently. Rituals that must be observed. I will need time to make arrangements. Take all the time you need, Marcus said. I'll be here for another few days finishing up some trades. 3 days, Zara said, and it sounded like a promise. In 3 days, I will come to you, and we will complete what we have begun. She leaned forward and placed a soft kiss on his cheek. Her lips were warm, and the touch sent electricity through his entire nervous system. For a moment, Marcus felt as if he were floating among stars. Until then, Marcus Reed, she whispered, and then she was gone, moving with a grace that seemed to defy the station's artificial gravity. Marcus stood in the corridor for several minutes, his hand touching the spot where she'd kissed him. His skin still tingled, and he had the strangest feeling that his life had just changed in ways he couldn't yet understand. He made his way back to his ship, the Stellar Drift, with Zara's image burned into his memory. Her silver skin, her starlight eyes, the way she'd looked at him as if he were something precious, it all replayed in his mind as he settled into his pilot's chair. 3 days. He found himself counting down the hours already, eager to see her again and discover what this binding souls ceremony involved. He pictured sharing meals, swapping stories, maybe even traveling together. The galaxy was vast and often lonely for independent traders. As he prepared for sleep that night, Marcus smiled to himself. For the first time in years, he had something to look forward to beyond his next trade deal. He had no idea that somewhere across the station, Zara was making preparations for a ceremony that would bind them together in ways his human mind couldn't even comprehend, and that in 3 days, he would discover he'd accidentally agreed to something far more profound than friendship. 3 days passed faster than Marcus had expected. He'd completed his trading business efficiently, his mind frequently drifting to thoughts of Zara and their planned meeting. Her luminescent silver skin and starlight eyes had haunted his dreams, leaving him with a strange sense of anticipation he couldn't quite explain. He was in his ship's small galley, preparing a simple meal, when the soft chime of his airlock announced a visitor. Marcus's heart quickened. He'd been hoping it would be Zara, though he hadn't expected her to find his ship so easily. The inner door slid open to reveal not just Zara, but another ethereal standing beside her. This one was male, taller than Zara, with the same silver-toned skin but bearing intricate patterns that seemed to shift like flowing water beneath the surface. His eyes held a stern quality that made Marcus immediately wary. Marcus Reed, Zara said, stepping forward with that same graceful movement he remembered. She wore flowing robes of deep blue that seemed to capture and reflect light like liquid starlight. I have come as promised. Zara, Marcus smiled, then glanced uncertainly at her companion. I wasn't expecting. This is my brother, Keth Voss, Zara said, her luminescent skin pulsing with what Marcus was beginning to recognize as emotional fluctuations. He insisted on accompanying me. Keth stepped forward, his gaze intense and evaluating. Human, he said, his voice carrying the same musical quality as Zara's but with harder undertones. My sister tells me you agreed to bind souls with her. This is unusual. Marcus felt a flicker of unease at the formal way they were both speaking. Well, yes. I mean, I'm looking forward to becoming friends. Partners, as Zara put it. The silence that followed was deafening. Zara and Keth exchanged a look loaded with meaning, and Marcus caught a glimpse of silver light passing between their eyes, some form of communication he couldn't interpret. Marcus, Zara said slowly, stepping closer to him. I fear there may be some misunderstanding about what soul binding means to my people. The unease in Marcus's stomach intensified. Misunderstanding? Keth crossed his arms, the patterns beneath his skin shifting to deeper hues. Among the ethereal clans, soul binding is not friendship, human. It is the most sacred bond two beings can share. It is. He paused, searching for words. What your people might call marriage, but far deeper. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Marriage? More than marriage, Zara said softly, her eyes never leaving his. When two ethereals bind souls, we share not just our lives, but our very essence. Our thoughts, our emotions, our life force, everything becomes connected. We become two halves of a greater whole. I didn't know, Marcus stammered, running a hand through his hair. I thought you meant partnership, like business partners or friends who watch each other's backs. That much is clear, Keth said, his tone sharp with disapproval. No human has ever attempted soul binding with an ethereal. Many of our people believe it impossible across species barriers. Marcus looked between the siblings, his mind reeling. So when I agreed. You agreed to become my mate, Zara said simply. In the eyes of my people, we are already promised to each other. Breaking such a promise. She trailed off, but Marcus caught the implications. This is madness, Keth said, the patterns under his skin now pulsing with agitated energy. Zara, you cannot seriously intend to go through with this. The clan will never accept a human bondmate. That is not your decision to make, brother, Zara replied, her own luminescence flaring slightly. She turned back to Marcus, and her expression softened. But neither is it yours alone, Marcus Reed. I will not hold you to a promise made in ignorance. Marcus stared at her, taking in the ethereal beauty of her features, the way her silver skin seemed to glow with inner light, the depth of her starlight eyes. Over the past 3 days, he'd found himself thinking about her constantly, her courage in facing the pirates, her gratitude, the way she'd made him feel like someone worth knowing. What would it mean, he asked quietly. This soul binding. What would actually happen? Zara's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected him to ask for details rather than immediately backing out. The ritual itself creates a bridge between our minds and spirits, she explained. We would share thoughts, emotions, even physical sensations to some degree. When one of us is hurt, the other feels it. When one experiences joy, both do. We become connected on every level of existence. And it's permanent? Marcus asked. Among my people, yes, Zara nodded. Though there has never been a cross-species binding. We do not know if the same rules would apply. Keth stepped forward, his patterns now shifting to darker tones. Human, you do not understand what you would be asking of her. Zara is of noble blood, daughter of a clan elder. She has responsibilities, a future mapped out among our people. This, infatuation, would destroy all of that. It is not infatuation, Zara said firmly, turning to face her brother. When he stepped in to defend me, when he showed such courage for a stranger, I felt something I had never experienced before. A recognition, a calling of soul to soul. That could have been simple gratitude, Keth argued. No. Zara's voice carried absolute certainty. I have spent my life among ethereals, feeling the touch of their minds, the harmony of our shared nature. What I felt with Marcus was different, stronger, more complete. As if I had been missing a piece of myself and suddenly found it. Marcus felt his heart racing. The way she described it, the intensity in her voice, it matched something he'd been feeling himself without understanding it. I've been thinking about you constantly since we met, he admitted. Not just because you're beautiful, though you are, but because of something deeper. Like there's an empty space in my life that I never noticed until I met you. Keth made a sound of frustration. Pretty words, but what of the practical matters? Where would you live? How would you survive the cultural divide? What of children, should the bond prove capable of producing them? Keth, Zara said warningly. No, he's right to ask, Marcus said, though the mention of children sent a strange thrill through him that he tried to ignore. This is crazy. I'm a human trader who lives on a ship barely big enough for one person. You're alien nobility with responsibilities I can't even imagine. We've known each other for 3 days. And yet, Zara said, stepping closer until he could smell that distinctive scent of ozone and starlight, you are considering it. Marcus looked into her eyes and saw hope there, mixed with vulnerability. This woman, this incredible, luminous being, was willing to risk everything for a connection she felt with him. The thought was both terrifying and intoxicating. The ritual, he said finally. How does it work? Keth threw up his hands in exasperation, but Zara's face lit up with radiant joy. It requires perfect trust and openness, she explained. We join hands and minds, allowing our life forces to intertwine. If the bond takes hold, we will be connected forever. If it fails. She hesitated. If it fails. The shock could be fatal to one or both participants, Keth said grimly. Which is why this madness must stop before. I'll do it, Marcus interrupted, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. I mean, if you're willing to risk everything, how can I do less? Zara's smile was like watching a star being born. Truly. Truly, Marcus said, taking her hands. The moment their skin touched, he felt that electric connection again, stronger this time. Though I should warn you, I have no idea what I'm doing. Neither do I, Zara laughed, the sound bright with joy and nervousness. But perhaps that is what makes it an adventure. Keth sighed deeply, the patterns under his skin settling into resigned acceptance. If you are both determined to pursue this folly, then I suppose someone must ensure you do not kill yourselves in the attempt. You'll help us? Zara asked. I will observe and try to keep you both alive, Keth corrected. But know this, if the clan discovers what we have done here, the consequences will fall on all our heads. Marcus squeezed Zara's hands, feeling the warmth of her skin and the promise of something extraordinary. When do we begin? The ceremony took place in Marcus's quarters, the small space transformed by Zara's presence and the soft crystalline formations Keth had arranged in precise patterns around the room. The crystals hummed with a low, harmonic frequency that seemed to resonate in Marcus's bones. These will help channel and stabilize the energy, Keth explained, his silver skin patterns shifting nervously. Though I cannot guarantee their effectiveness with human physiology. Marcus sat cross-legged on his narrow bunk, facing Zara who had settled gracefully on the floor before him. She had changed into a simple white robe that seemed to enhance her natural luminescence. Her silver skin pulsed gently in rhythm with her breathing, and her starlight eyes held a mixture of anticipation and trust that made Marcus's heart race. Are you ready? She asked softly, extending her hands toward him. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing pulse. As ready as someone can be for something they don't understand. Trust is all that matters now, Zara said, placing her palms against his. The moment their skin connected, Marcus felt that familiar electric sensation, but stronger this time, as if something was awakening between them. Close your eyes, Keth instructed from somewhere behind Marcus. Let your minds open to each other. Do not resist what you feel. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to relax, focusing on the warmth of Zara's hands and the gentle humming of the crystals. At first, nothing happened. Then, gradually, he became aware of something else, a presence at the edge of his consciousness, tentative and warm. Marcus? The voice wasn't audible but seemed to speak directly into his mind. It was unmistakably Zara's voice, but softer, more intimate than anything he'd ever experienced. I can hear you, he thought back, amazed when he felt her joy at the connection. The presence in his mind grew stronger, and suddenly Marcus was flooded with sensations that weren't his own. He felt Zara's nervousness, her excitement, and underneath it all, a deep well of affection that took his breath away. More than that, he could sense her perception of him, the way she saw his courage, his kindness, the loneliness he'd carried for years without acknowledging it. You see me, he thought to her, overwhelmed by the intimacy of it. And you see me, she replied, her mental voice filled with wonder. Truly see me, not just my appearance or my species, but who I am beneath. The connection deepened, and Marcus felt his own consciousness expanding, touching something vast and luminous that was uniquely Zara. He experienced flashes of her memories, growing up among the ethereal clans, the weight of expectations placed on her, the loneliness of being different even among her own people. And through it all, he felt her searching for something she couldn't name until she'd met him. The crystals around them began to glow brighter, their harmonic frequency intensifying. Marcus felt energy flowing between him and Zara, creating a circuit that seemed to strengthen with each passing moment. By the ancient stars, Keth breathed. It's actually working. The bond stabilized with a sensation like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Marcus opened his eyes to find Zara staring at him in wonder, her silver skin now glowing with intricate patterns that seemed to mirror designs appearing on his own arms, delicate traceries of light that pulsed in perfect synchronization. How do you feel? Keth asked, moving closer to examine the markings. Different, Marcus said, flexing his fingers and watching the light patterns shift. But also, complete. Like I've been walking around with only half my senses working. Zara stood gracefully, and Marcus felt an echo of her movement in his own muscles. When she smiled, he experienced both his joy at seeing her happiness and her own delight at their successful bonding. The patterns are extraordinary, Keth observed, his earlier skepticism replaced by fascination. I've never seen bonding marks so complex, even among our own people. What do they mean? Marcus asked, studying the luminous designs on his forearms. They reflect the nature and strength of your bond, Zara explained, reaching out to trace one of the patterns on his skin. The touch sent waves of pleasure through both of them, amplified by their shared awareness. These indicate a connection deeper than what most ethereals achieve, even with lifetime mates. Over the following days, Marcus and Zara explored their new reality. The bond allowed them to sense each other's emotions and share surface thoughts when they chose to. More practically, it enhanced their physical coordination. When they moved together, they seemed to anticipate each other's actions perfectly. They were testing this synchronization in the station's cargo bay, practicing a simple combat routine, when they were interrupted by a familiar voice. Well, I'll be damned. Marcus Reed, what in the seven hells have you done to yourself? Marcus turned to see Yarrick Stone approaching, his old friend and fellow trader looking equal parts amazed and horrified. Yarrick was a bear of a man with graying hair and scars that told stories of a long career in the outer systems. Hello, Yarrick, Marcus said, automatically moving closer to Zara as he sensed her tension through their bond. I'd like you to meet Zara. Yarrick's eyes widened as he took in Zara's ethereal beauty and the matching light patterns on both their skin. Sweet mother of space, you've gone and bonded with an alien. Her name is Zara, Marcus said firmly, feeling his protective instincts flare. Through their bond, he sensed Zara's gratitude for his defense and her own wariness of this stranger. I can speak for myself, Zara said gracefully, stepping forward. I am Zara Nyth of the ethereal clans. You are Marcus's friend? Was, Yarrick said bluntly. Before he lost his damn mind and tied himself to some, what are you exactly? Some kind of energy being? Marcus felt anger surge through their bond, both his own and Zara's, and had to consciously work to keep his voice level. Yarrick, that's enough. Is it? Yarrick gestured at the glowing patterns on Marcus's skin. Look at yourself, man. You're changing, becoming something that ain't human anymore. And for what? Some alien tale? The crude comment sent a spike of fury through Marcus that was amplified by Zara's own hurt and anger. Before he knew what he was doing, Marcus had closed the distance between them and grabbed Yarrick by the shirt. Apologize to her. Now. Yarrick's eyes widened at the intensity in Marcus's voice. Marcus, what's happened to you? This isn't you talking. This is exactly me talking, Marcus replied, though he could feel Zara's gentle touch in his mind, urging him toward calm. I'm just done pretending that ignorance and bigotry deserve politeness. He released Yarrick and stepped back, taking Zara's hand. The physical contact helped center him, their bond providing an anchor of serenity in his storm of emotions. Yarrick, he said more calmly, Zara is my bond mate. That means she's family now, closer than family. If you can't respect that, then we don't have anything more to say to each other. Yarrick stared at them both for a long moment, his expression cycling through confusion, concern, and finally resignation. I hope you know what you're doing, Marcus. The galaxy's not kind to mixed couples, especially when one of them's not human. We'll manage, Marcus said, squeezing Zara's hand. After Yarrick left, they sat in the quiet of the cargo bay, processing the encounter. Through their bond, Marcus could feel Zara's sadness and her guilt that their relationship had cost him a friendship. I'm sorry, she said softly. I never wanted to come between you and your friends. You didn't, Marcus replied, pulling her closer. Yarrick did that himself with his prejudice. Anyone who can't see how amazing you are isn't worth keeping around. Zara leaned against him, and he felt her gratitude and love flow through their connection. Still, he's not wrong about the galaxy not being kind to us. We'll face this reaction again. Then we'll face it together, Marcus said, kissing the top of her head. That's what bonded mates do, right? Her answering smile was radiant, both physically and through their shared awareness. Yes, my beloved. That's exactly what we do. As they held each other in the dim cargo bay, Marcus realized that whatever challenges lay ahead, he wouldn't trade this connection for anything. Zara had become part of him in ways he was still discovering, and he wouldn't change that even if he could. The glowing patterns on their skin pulsed in perfect harmony, a visible reminder of the invisible bond that tied their souls together. They were no longer just Marcus and Zara, they were something new, something unprecedented. And despite the challenges they would face, despite the judgment of those who couldn't understand, Marcus had never felt more complete in his life. Through their bond, he felt Zara's complete agreement, her love and commitment flowing between them like light between stars. Whatever came next, they would meet it as one. The first phase of their journey together was complete, but Marcus had the feeling that their greatest adventures, and their greatest tests, still lay ahead.